So to kick things off, I'm going to give you a little bit of a flavor with regards to what can we expect in 2025. Now you're probably thinking, okay, well 1 week into February, does Sarah have a crystal ball? But I can really kind of think we're on a similar trajectory. So I want to kind of go backwards before we go forwards. Now, if you're familiar with Microsoft, we have our digital defense report. In essence, we publish a report every October, and it's a look back over the previous 12 months. What is it we're learning? What do we see? What's new? What's different? Now, this report is about 120 pages long. It's pretty meaty, goes into nation states, it goes to organized crime, all the things that we can... Pretty much you can't have a report from Microsoft, I have to say, without some kind of AI in it. So it has a little bit of that. But I'm going to condense that into 10 key points that you see behind me. So in essence, one of the things we can say categorically is the threat actors are getting more aggressive, they're more sophisticated, and they don't particularly care, in essence, that you know who they are and what they're doing. I see a lot of people at the back. If you want to make your way down, please do. But I just want to give you a little bit of perspective. You've kind of heard maybe at Microsoft, every single day we collect, process, and analyze over 78 trillion signals. I've just been told it's 95 trillion. I won't be surprised, give us another week or a few months, we're 100 trillion. That, in essence, means the attack surface is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so none of these attacks are slowing down. So we kind of process 600 million cyber attacks a day. Now, that's just what Microsoft sees in terms of what is traversing our network. Of those, 350 million are identity-based attacks, and 99% of those are password sprays. So when we tell you not to reuse passwords, simple passwords, this is why. Identity is going through the roof with regards to the type of attacks and the level of attacks. But that also means social engineering is having a revival. We've always had social engineering. But in essence, as the technology gets better and better at identifying and blocking anomalies, they're forced to go backwards. But on top of that, we've seen a huge increase in what we call proxy actors. So in essence, if I'm a nation-state actor and I do an active cyber attack on another nation, it could be seen as an act of aggression. And therefore, you might have a different type of response. However, if I give you the tools, technology, and know-how, if you're a ransomware operator, an activist, I can give you those things, and I have a sense of deniability. Now, how do I know that? How do we know that they are actually giving the tools, technology, and know-how? Well, part of that is due to how we're tracking large-scale threat actors. We are actively tracking 1,500. 600 of those are nation-state actors, the rest of which are organized crime or large-scale activists. Obviously, there are more than 1,500 threat actors in the world, but that, in essence, is really kind of what we're talking about. Not only that, they're hiding behind other threat actors. So why am I going to waste my time building my own infrastructure when I can just steal yours? And so again, when it comes to attribution from one country or one kind of industry to another, I don't really know who's attacking me or why. So actually, when you think about threat intelligence and attribution, does it even matter who is attacking you anymore? Something to bear in mind. But let's, as I say, you can't have a presentation without something around AI. So AI is going off the scale in terms of how it's actually changing the world around us. So whether you're the threat actor, we're seeing they're experimenting, they're using reconnaissance, they're teaching themselves about operating systems. So Microsoft has a Patch Tuesday for the last 20 years. So every month we issue a bunch of CVEs, patch your systems. All they're doing is teaching themselves, how do I exploit this vulnerability and how do I do that at scale? But it's not just about cyber attacks. We have seen a huge increase in what we call cyber influence operations, disinformation, deep fakes, electoral tampering. So actually what we think about as cyber security, we ought to think much, much bigger, much, much wider. We already think about the IT, the IoT, the OT, we also the physical security, and all of these things combined. So what does that really mean ultimately? Well, in November 2023, Microsoft actually published the Secure Future Initiative. This is a multi-year program about how does Microsoft think about security all up end to end. Now this is so important. Our CEO Satya Nadella said security is #1 priority above everything else. So if you have a stack of things that need doing, with IT, various different things, you've got to put security #1 because it's that important. There's a kind of few things I have to pull into that. It's secure by design, secure by default, and secure operations. And I think we've been having this debate for a very long time. What does secure by design really mean? So we have this kind of principle about shift left. So rather than security and resilience being the last thing that we do, this is how we now make security the first thing we do, no matter what it is we're talking about. We're introducing new business models. We're actually changing. We're mergers and acquisitions. We've got all of this cool technology. Security has to be #1. To give you a little bit of perspective on that, so from our engineers' perspective, so that Secure Future Initiative is actually the biggest cybersecurity engineering program in history. We have dedicated 34,000 engineers to really think about identity, engineering, networks, incident response, all of those things. And this is the real key principle. Start right, stay right, get right. So this is about how do I make sure all the right tools and technology is available from day one? How do I actually really bring in secure by design and secure by default into this mix? And how do I keep it secure no matter what is coming at us, no matter what is coming thick and fast? So these are really big principles, but it's not all about Microsoft. So we're sharing all of these things with our customers and with you. So what you can expect over the next year is that we are sharing lessons learned, multiple white papers, because if a company like Microsoft has to go through all of these things, how do we actually make everybody more secure? So bringing this kind of up to kind of what can we expect? So there's real difference between not just looking at disruption, but destruction. So we've seen a lot of threat actors, particularly ransomware operators, who are foregoing the initial encryption and just exfiltrating data. Some of those are actually using the ransomware as a parting gift. Maybe they've already extracted it. You're never going to get an extortion demand. But I sure as hell am going to destroy your systems. I'm going to wipe your systems. I'm going to wipe your network. When we talked about AI, as AI gets cheaper, it gets more democratized, you can see that a lot of threat actors are going to be using AI as part of their toolkit. We're seeing this already, not just in regards to their reconnaissance, what they're doing, how they are refining phishing emails. It's so good, so perfect, almost too perfect, because nobody actually writes perfect English. But that's what they're doing. They're really kind of thinking about how they can use AI to amplify their attacks, to speed up their attacks, and also automate their attacks at the same time. We've talked about social engineering already. It's going to have a huge impact in terms of what we're doing, what we can expect, and that cyber influence operations is going to be a really key factor, particularly when we think about that activism, how a lot of we're influencing over social media, turning people on or off to different subjects. And so what does that mean? What does that mean for all of us? Well, that scale and deployment is really, really important. Secure by default. Again, I'm going to kind of come back to that point. Now, again, from Microsoft, you're going to see more and more things turned on out of the box, particular multi-factor authentication. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't control it. We can't change it. But that's one of the things that we're going to have to think about is how do I actually make secure by design and have all those configs in place? And even one of the things we're thinking about is self-healing systems at the same point. And identity, we're going to keep laboring that. Identity is core to everything. We're going to hear a lot about that today. Whether you're a human or a machine, protect the access is really, really important. But it's not just about the access. We have to protect the data. And we have to protect the exit. So what are they after ultimately? They're going to try and monetize their attack. Then ultimately, what is it they need? So we've got to kind of think about all of these things end to end.